probably know, but just in case you're not aware, demons affect us in many, many ways. Not just one particular way, not just in one particular method. They affect us in many ways. Physical manifestations are one way and spiritual manifestations are the other, but both ways. So many demons live in our thoughts. They live in our minds in that second heaven. The second heaven, which is the realm of the mind, is where many demons live. They affect our perception of life as it moves all around us, of reality as we perceive it, and more, all in the second heaven, all in that realm of the mind. So demons don't just try to separate us from God, they try to separate us from God, our family, our loved ones, and then everyone all together. It's almost kind of like a lion, a pack of lions when they're hunting will try to separate some other animal from its herd. And if they can separate the animal from its herd, they can surround it, gang up on it, and overwhelm it. And it's the same kind of idea with the demonic realm. You see that in nature, you see it in the spiritual realm as well. Demons will usually start small. They will not always, sometimes they'll start big, but usually they'll start small in someone's life, but they will eventually try to take over that person's mind and then their body if left alone to it. You don't have to be a Christian to fight off that kind of thing. That's why you don't see people like totally possessed everywhere you look, right? Usually, it doesn't matter if you're a Hindi, a New Ager, or whatever, because we're made in the image of God, we have some authority here on earth, whether we're Christian or not. So that's why you can see a New Ager doing a certain kind of ceremony or prayer and kicking a demon out. Now, sometimes that comes with another cost, but they can do it, and that authority is there. However, as Rhemites, or followers of the Rhema way, we have our own individual identity, you can say. And by the way, Christians too, we have our own individual identity. And that identity is a son or a daughter of God. A son or a daughter adopted by God. And we have the ability to choose for ourselves whether we give the demonic access or not. We have the ability to kick them out or to let them in. Unless we are really kind of confused, we won't let them in, right? So that's something that they have a hard time doing. But they do get in, so how does that happen? And we'll talk about that. One thing we have to keep in mind is that while we dislike the demonic, we do, as human beings, have a need for love, kingdom love, especially love from heaven, love from God. And the last thing we want is to be controlled like a puppet on a string, because there's no love there. That's just master-slave. However, this is exactly what they want to do to us. This is exactly what the demonic wants to do with us. And that is why they have such trouble doing it, because we want love, we want sonship, daughtership, adoption, and they want master-slave, puppet on a string, I own you kind of thing. This is exactly what they want to do us. It is not what we want. Now, luckily, they don't have the power to do this. They don't have the power to do what they want. So how do they do it? Because it does happen, so how do they do it? For that, they have to get us to give them the authority over our lives to do that. So they have to trick us into allowing them to do that to us. They have to trick us into allowing them to do that to us. So they have to scare us, they have to make a deal with us, they have to fool us, something like that. Because if they don't, we won't let them in. And they won't be able to come in. Because being a puppet on a string is not something that anyone enjoys. It's not a thought that anyone likes, whether they're Buddhist or Hindu or Christian or New Age. No one likes that. So they can kick that demon out, especially if they are Christian and they have God. So they have to trick us, they have to scare us into it, they have to fool us, they have to make a deal with us, they have to do something because they don't have the power. So the whole thing with Eve in the garden, what is that all about? The devil had to trick her into eating the fruit, giving the fruit to Adam. Adam eats the fruit, hands over the keys of federal headship to the enemy, hands over the authority to steward the earth, so to speak, hands that over to Satan. He had to trick him, though, into handing it. He could never take it. And the same thing happens over our lives. We have authority over our lives. The enemy has to trick us into giving it to him. So, that said, how does he do it? Well, usually through fear, through scaring us, this kind of thing. But demons generally don't manifest in the physical realm, the first heaven where we are now. They don't generally do that. That is very scary when they do, but they generally don't. And when they do, it's usually like maybe a slamming door or maybe a shaking headboard or something like that. But it's very, very rarely a physical manifestation of the demonic that you'll encounter. I've only seen such a thing maybe four times in my life personally. Two such manifestations, slamming doors, shaking headboard, that are what led me to Christianity, so it totally backfired for the enemy. But those kind of things are very uncommon. What is very common is to have demonic manifestations in the spiritual realm, the spiritual level, the level of the mind, the second heaven. And this happens very often and sometimes in very scary ways. I think the scariest stories I hear about demonic manifestations in the second heaven are related to hallucinogens, people taking drugs. Absolutely, because people on drug trips have many stories of such manifestations happening. They might not believe in the demonic or the spirit realm at all, even after such experiences. But even though they don't, they will then describe an experience or an encounter that is exactly a demonic encounter. It sounds like it, it is it. And why do people on like drug trips, for lack of a better word, have such kind of encounters? They might think it's an alien. They might think, why does that happen? Well, our mind exists on the second heaven, and that is our mind, our soul has a soul mind, a soul heart. That's our heart, our mind that exists at the second heaven. And around our soul in the second heaven is like, you can think of it like a castle wall, like a soul wall. And that soul wall kind of protects us against yucky things coming in. Now, when we first wake up, or when we're getting ready to go to bed, that wall kind of comes down a little because we're tired or we're groggy, and that's why you might feel strong emotions right before you go to bed, or you might get into an argument with someone, or you might lose your cool easier at night or in the morning, or when you're tired. When you're tired, your soul wall kind of comes down a bit. When you take a hallucinogen, boom, it's like totally wide open, and the demonic just loves to come in at that point. So not good. Rhemites do not do drugs. Don't do drugs. Don't do drugs, kids. And that is a huge reason why the soul, the mind in the second heaven, surrounded by a soul wall, needs to stay strong. That's why we need to be healthy. That's why we need to get sleep. That's why we need to take care of ourselves. The most common ways that demons affect us then is on that second heaven, and it's usually through thought interacting with the mind. Demons move at the speed of thought. They exist on the second heaven. They move at the speed of thought. They interact with our thoughts. Many times they will plant thoughts in our mind, called flaming arrows in the Bible. They'll plant thoughts in our mind, and they will make us think it's our thought. It will have our voice, but it won't be our thought. But they'll try to make us think it is, because if we think it is, we own that thought and we take that thought in, and that's how we partner with things that they want us to partner with and give them access to us. So demons move at the speed of thought, and they attempt to affect our perception of the people and of the events that take place in our life as life happens. They try to affect our perception of reality so that we see their perception of reality, not God's perception of reality. They are trying to superimpose their perception of reality over God's. They always do this kind of stuff with their best interests in mind. Never our best interest. Never our best. The only time they might do something with our best interest in mind is when it just happens to coincide or match their best interest. And as a side note, they don't often look like what you might expect them to look like. So similar to what I said, like when they plant a thought in our mind, they try to make us think it's our thought. They don't want us to think it's their thought, because if you have a thought and you know it's a demonic thought, you're not going to take it on, you're going to kick it out, right? So similarly, they try to look like and act like and operate like you might expect them to be if they were a good thing, if they were a nice thing, an angel of light. Remember what demons once were. They were angels. They were made by God. Beautiful, wonderful. Lucifer was the head angel. He was a beautiful angel. Angels are beings of light, and demons fallen angels will often masquerade as angels of light or friendly aliens in the case of the New Age, like the Pleiadians, who are just here to help you. They're just here to guide you and to heal you. They do this because they want to gain your trust. They know that if a person thinks an angelic being is looking over them or watching out for them or watching out for humanity or the world, they know that if they can get someone to believe that, then such people will look forward to meeting with them. Such people might even be willing to give control of themselves to this angelic being, to worship this angelic being. They think, these people that run to these beings, think they're being protected and cared for by the angelic being, which is why they run to this being and give their trust to this being. And remember I brought up the lions before, where they try to separate some animal, maybe one or two animals from the herd so that they can overwhelm them. So another thing that the demonic does besides that is very similar to lions is they will chase their prey into the arms of another lion. So lions will chase their prey into a certain path, and they'll be chasing it, and then out from nowhere jumps another lion and it tackles their prey. Well, very, very similar in the spiritual realm. Scary demons might even chase someone further and further down a path into a being of light, a wonderful being of light who is going to protect them and guide them and blah, blah, blah. And actually that angelic being of light is just another demon. And this is why you have angel guides and people are worshiping angels, and there's the ascended masters and the archangels and all that. So scary demons might chase someone into the arms of a being of light, but actually it's just another demon. And you can see these stories and these worshiping situations all over the place. Whether we interact with a scary demon or a being of light, we are talking in many, many instances to a demon. So Joseph Smith, he met an angel of light who gave them another gospel, right? Well, in the Bible, it very clearly says, do not add to the Bible, even if an angel or a being of light tells you something different, don't add to the gospel. And Muhammad met with an angel of light in a cave, right? So beings of light, ascended masters, they all have their impact on world history. Whether we interact with a demon or an angel of light, we are very often talking to a demon. So whether we are simply affected by a demon feeding us thoughts and feelings, or whether we're being scared by a demon or anything else, the general goal of all of them is the same. Their general goal is always the same, and that goal is they want our worship. They want our worship. It's the same choice they made when Lucifer tried to raise himself above God and said, I want to be worshipped. Pride made him raise himself up. It started the whole war in heaven, the whole rebellion. That's how their whole thing started, and 1/3 of the angels fell. They wanted to be worshipped. What do they want now? They want to be worshipped as well. Whether they have to scare us into it or trick us into it, whatever they got to do, they'll do it. Whether it's an ascended master or an archangel or whatever else, they want us to do it. They want to be God and they want to be worshipped. So that's what you see in a lot of these other movements that are started by angels of light. So the problem with that is humans aren't actually made to worship angels or demons. So we're made to worship God. We're made to worship God. So that's why the demonic has to first cut our relationship to God, then to family, then the society and people and humanity in general. They slowly demonize us more and more in the process as they slowly separate us from our herd, our body, the church. The church is the body of believers. That's why we need to be plugged in horizontally with a body and also connected to God. So their end game, the demonic end game, is our total worship and their total possession, if they can, of us. First demonization, then possession. They want our worship, they want our trust. And when they get our worship and our trust, they can demonize and even maybe possess us. How do they do this, though? Because of our fallen nature, we have subconscious and conscious thoughts, urges, feelings that are definitely not kingdom. We can all agree with that. And the demonic will look for these thoughts, these feelings, so that they can exploit them. They'll look for these urges so they can exploit them, get us to partner with them, and they can find a home in us. They're looking for those thought flags we talked about in the first video. They're looking for those dark thought flags that exist in the second heaven. They will try to get us to find a way to partner with them, and we'll do that in either our thoughts, our words, our actions, or all three, but that's what they're looking for. So those black thought flags are what they rally to and exploit, and our fallen nature means that we have things within us that are not of God. So we have things working with us because of our fallen nature, the fallen nature of the world that influences our thoughts, our feelings, our actions, and that is what the demonic looks for, and that is what the demonic exploits. This can be a scarier situation than a demon manifesting in the physical or even in the spiritual, because this acts more like a virus. When a demonic group sees dark thought flags around in your metron, in your sphere of authority in the spirit, they will swarm. They will try to get through. They will try to get in, and they will get in if they're lucky, and they will try to hide. So you don't know it's there. If you get a scary experience in the spiritual because you're on a drug trip, you know something's messed up. If the door slams, you know something's messed up. But in this case, it's very sneaky and it tries to hide, so you don't know it's there. And then it reproduces in there and it poisons your soul until it becomes stronger and stronger, and it can really start to affect you for the worse. Really start to affect. So these demons want the worst of us, the worst of our fallen nature, to rise up out of us and begin to overcome the best of us, and slowly partner with those dark thought flags, slowly partner with those demonic thoughts, slowly take on that demonic perception of reality in the world around us. The fallen nature overcomes the kingdom nature. The orphan spirit beats out the spirit of sonship. And that to me is much, much more frightening than when we lose, when we encounter something in the spiritual realm that scares us. Because what we've actually lost is the battle for ourself. We begin to lose a sense of ourself without even knowing that it's happening. It's a very slow, scary process. Demonization. We begin to lose who we really are. The demonic deceptions in our life increase. We start to misunderstand what people say and do and think they're trying to come after us, offend us, hurt us. Our judgments and our understandings of the world around us begin to kind of turn black and dark and scary, and we get kind of lost in a world of deception or despair or misunderstanding, and we slowly separate ourselves more from others, and it just gets worse and worse. Demons, you must remember, at times like this, cannot control you. They cannot control you. They can only tempt you or scare you or trick you and invite you to partner with them. And the more dark flags we have in our spiritual sphere of authority existing in the second heaven, the more we draw them in to do that. It's almost like rotten meat that draws and flies and maggots and all that stuff. We can totally draw them in with dark thought flags, but they cannot control us. They can only tempt us and invite us and scare us and trick us. And that's the good news. If we are vigilant and we stay close to Jesus, it's easy to spot a demon. It's easy to spot the tactics of the enemy. It's like in the government, when you have agents looking for counterfeit money, they don't study the fake counterfeits that they see on the street. They study the real thing. They study the real thing because if they know the real thing really, really well in terms of money, they can spot a counterfeit bill a mile away. So they study the authentic thing so that they can find the fake ones easily. And when we spend a lot of time with Jesus and we study God and we study and get to know the Lord, we can spot a fake a mile away. Whether it looks like an angel of light or it looks like a dark and scary demon, we know what is an angel, a real angel, and what is a fake angel of light. A real angel of light and a fake angel of light. So when we see a real one, we pray, we listen to God, we partner with the kingdom. When we see a fake one, we simply ignore it or we ask God to get rid of it for us. It's really that easy. It's really that. Demons do not have to run our lives. They cannot run our lives unless we let them. Now, some of you are probably thinking, it is not that easy, Adam. It is not that easy at all. I pray, I rebuke, I read the scripture, and the thoughts just keep coming over and over. The demonic just comes in over and over again. It's not that easy at all. Okay, I know. I have seen these situations many, many, many times, and those situations happen to all of us. I'm talking in general. Most of the time, we can either pray or ignore, and the demonic has to leave. But there are times when we are really having a hard time getting rid of things, and it's almost always in the beginning of someone's spiritual growth or when they're about to make a huge spiritual leap that I see this happen. And this is what spiritual warfare actually looks like sometimes. It's just as what that spiritual warfare is going to look like for you in this period of your life, this season of your life. But this too shall pass. Just stay strong. If you don't give up, you win. If you don't give up, you win. You just keep praying, keep reaching out to God. This is what spiritual warfare looks like sometimes. It is awful. And no one tool or prayer or formula or whatever is going to work. But you got to hold tight, hold tight. If you cling to Jesus and you don't give up, you will actually always win. You will actually always win. We'll talk more about this later. I don't want to get off topic, but remember for now that demons want our worship. It goes all the way back to before the Garden of Eden. They want our worship, and they feed off of our energy and our trust, any sort of energy, whether it's fear, adoration. They love our worship. They want our worship. So what we focus on and what we meditate on, the thought flags we produce in the second heaven, light flags or dark flags, we empower those things in our life. We draw more of those things in our lives. That's what you need to remember. So if we focus on demons, we will draw in and feed demons. If we focus on the angelic, the same happens. If we ignore the demonic, it's like we're not watering a flower in the summer sun. Eventually, it will actually die. It might make a lot of noise and cause a lot of torture for you in the process, but it will actually die. You already ignore all kinds of things now. You just don't know it because they're easy to ignore now. They're not big in your life now. You're ignoring them. You do have the ability. Why am I saying that? Because you do have the ability to ignore many, many, many things. Some are just harder to ignore than others. But believe that you can ignore thoughts, feelings, emotions that never, never seem to go away. Believe that you can. And believe me when I say God will take you through that dark time and you will get to learn how to live a life without them in there. Even if you can't understand this or believe what I'm saying yet, try to believe that that is true and that will happen for you. That's all we have for today. That's our second Q&A about the demonic, about demons. I hope you have a good day and I'll talk to you later.